Hi everyone, Fabian here. So we're going to do a different approach today. In 1 minute, I'm going to tell you exactly what you're going to see so you can make a decision if you want to stick around, skip ahead, or skip this altogether. This all starts with Microsoft Build that concluded this week and a couple of announcements that were made. And also my, fixation, you can use the word, with OpenTelemetry and with now NLWeb that you see on the screen. We'll get to that. So this week there was a keynote with Kevin Scott, CTO of Microsoft, and there was also a breakout session that talked about NLWeb in the context of using natural language to chat with your website. But the key part that I paid attention to was the fact that it said that it uses open schema and structured content in order to do that. And with open schema, which certain websites like WordPress and others adhere to that, where you'll have certain properties inside in a JSON format, as long as you can get structured content to adhere to schema.org, then you should be able to use NLWeb. And I was thinking, well, you can do that with OpenTelemetry and the exporter. So whereas you can have the exporter just work within the Aspire desktop, and also you can you have an export to send that to Azure Insights using Azure Monitor, should be able to do it with NLWeb. So that's what we're going to be doing here today, and I'm going to be showing you code where we actually use an old sample code that I've done for CAPS, which is Copilot Agent Plugins, a feature that I shipped recently, where we're going to start with that as a starter project. Then we're going to attach OpenTelemetry to that, and then we're going to attach NLWeb to that. And so we're going to basically see our progress go through. So all of these links are going to be inside the somewhere within the either the post or the video. But this is the NLWeb announcement. As you can see, it talks about how it works and so on and so forth. But the key part is this GitHub repo, which almost is turnkey. There are certain configuration files that you can just put settings in, and it will determine how to do the embedding, how to do the vector store, how to do the website itself, and which model to use, and so on and so forth. We'll get to that. But go to this GitHub repo. I did a blog post on this a couple of days ago, when a day or two after the announcement, just to see how it worked and to validate that I could actually do this here today. I'll provide a link to that as well. Check it out. Also a LinkedIn post as well. And all of this code is inside my public repo. As I mentioned before, there's some sample code that I have for CAPS, and I just keep tacking on items to it. So OTL for OpenTelemetry, NLWeb for NLWeb, and it's using the better. The better solution inside the repo is where we just have one program .cs file that does everything for Copilot Agent plugins. There's some more detailed demos that are there, but this one is the simplest one to follow. All right, so with OpenTelemetry, you basically, and using the Aspire dashboard, you basically have a bucket of three things. You have structured logs. So think of this like your logger that you'll use inside any .NET application. This basically allows you to do structured logs so that you can actually see it here. Within that, you can see traces, and traces are basically going to be, where's my mouse? Traces are basically going to be, let's say you make a call. The call goes to, there's a post. You can see the URI that it goes to. It'll show you how long it takes. It'll show you the response, and it does another call. It'll show you all of that, so you can actually trace all of that down. Similar to what OpenAI does in theirs as well. And metrics basically tells you just how long certain things take. So basically, if you want to see latency, if you're testing for that, that is fantastic. We're going to see all of that here today. As you can see, there's nothing there right now, just because we haven't done anything yet, but we'll get to it in a minute. NLWeb, on the other hand, is another project that you can see from the repo that I talked about before, but you can start to ask questions here. What I like about NLWeb is that this is a basic chat interface that you can use. This is as basic as it comes. It's just on the port 8000. However, there are some static HTML files that are built there for you. There's a debug one that allows you to put in your own site, and then determine if you want to have the results come back in a list, summarize, or you want to use the LLM to generate something for you. And then you can determine the database that you have. In our case, we're going to be using Quadrant as our local vector database here. We'll talk about that as well too. There's a streaming one, which allows you to do streaming chat. And what I love most is that this is already wired up for MCP. Now, this is me playing with it for less than a week. So there's a lot of learning that I have to do, but I did promise to do a video walkthrough of this. All right. So the first code that we're going to look at is the one that says OTel NLWeb better. And I should let you know as well that this all runs on some Docker container which is already started. This is the quadrant one for the vector database. This is the one for Aspire desktop. So inside here, with the OTel better, we already have Docker that's running, and we already lit up the site. So you already saw that. So if I come here now and do .NET start, .NET run, sorry. Can't type. .NET run. All right. So we can see these 4 plugins have already loaded, and it's asking me to do a prompt. All right. So if we come back over to here and go to the Aspire, you can already see that that's already happened, right? So this is already logging that output already, and you can see this is under the resource OTLWeb better, and we have this already there. If we go under, well, there's no traces yet because I actually haven't hit anything of, well, there's traces, but there's nothing of benefit for us to basically see here. If we click into it, there's nothing much to view. Here it is, just one call, okay. And on the metrics, if I come here, well, that'll take a little bit of time to load, but it will load. But let's come over here now and actually go back and actually do something. We're going to say, what can you tell me about my contact, Kaiser Soze? All right. If you've done anything with me in the past, you know that Kaiser Soze is a contact inside Ada Vance's contacts in M365. So this is going to basically leverage the contacts plugin inside CAPS in order to do that. This is also protected by device code auth. So that's why we're going to have to go ahead and click this here, Control C, come back over here and go to device code auth because we're logging as ADEL, paste that in. And we are going to log in as ADEL, click sign in, click continue. And now we should be able to see the response coming back. We see the tokens being triggered there. We see the results coming back. And if we came over here and go back to Aspire, and now we actually see some metrics inside there. If we go back to the structured logs, we can see the same thing. The token got acquired. We got that warning because when we did the initial call, it checks for the token, but it knows it's not there. And then we can actually see the output here. We click on it. We can see our, our full thing that we got back from the results. If we go to traces, actually, and which one do you click into? Click here. Yeah, on the traces, we can actually see the calls that are being made and how long it took. Again, for the latency check, we can see that here, this is just trying to get that token login, failing before it actually gets one concrete right here, which is basically the call to get the device code auth. This goes to graph and it looks in the contacts because basically the CAPS plugin says you need contacts in order to do this. And this is just the synthesis, basically the response in the chat completion coming back. But if you wanted to debug and also to just look at latency, you have that information here. If you want to see on the metrics as well, again, this is just something that I'm looking at right now. I've not dug deep into this, but again, if you want to see spikes, if you want to see trends, these are the things that you can play with. There's a ton of these here. I have not gone through all of them as yet. All right, so what we're going to do now, I want to do a couple more of these just to see if I can generate some errors so that my log files will fill up. You'll notice also, you didn't see it before, but if I scroll this down here and click on the trace, you can see there's 20 lines in here right now. Let's actually see what will happen. If I come here and say, what is in my, what's the latest email in my inbox? All right, you can see the trace is filling up now. It's getting the token. You can see come in there. I'm just going to come out of here right now. So basically, this is the trace that's going to be exported later on, and I'll show you how we get that. So this is showing us the latest email. I want to see if I can get an error. What are the next 2 appointments I have in my calendar? And I need to say this. Today is May 24th, 2025. Even though I hope it gives me an error. You need to tell it, otherwise the LLM is going to think it's 2023. All right, so acquire the token. Output, it seems that there's an error in retrieving your calendar events, which is good. That's what I wanted to see. So if I come back over to structured output, it says there was an error here, but it gives me an information level though, not an error level. But we do have one here, which is the error. So if I come and do a view into here, we do have, good, there it is actually. So that does give me an error, gives me a 400 error, which is good. All right, so let's now exit out of here. We should have enough in terms of our traces. Let's come back over to here and we'll take a look. See, we have 27 lines. Let's get a little bit more. 27 is not enough. Let's make this a little bit more. Let's give it, let's say, what? Oh, bugger. That's not what I want to do. Okay. What is the latest email in my box? Give me a summary and send that summary to Kaiser Soze with a subject of demo live May 24 round 2, because I did this before. All right, and body as summary. All right, so this should do the context plugin plus also the email read plugin and also the send mail plugin. But we can actually says delivery failed because look at that, because there's no email server. So I'm going to say I want you to just give me the latest email from my inbox. I send an email to contact Kaiser Soze with a summary of that email and the subject of Bravo Charlie email demo live. Okay. All right. Same thing again. Contact plugin, read email plugin, send mail plugin. All right. Sent an email. Boom. So that's done. Let's test that. Hold on. I need to go grab this here. I need to go do this Kaiser Soze. Click. There it is. Okay. So I'm going to go to Gmail. And there it is. Charlie demo live. And there it is with, well, of course, the last one is an undeliverable. That makes sense, right? All right. So, but when I come over here and go back to structured output, we should now have, a couple things that are there. Other traces, we would expect to see some errors in the traces as well. And on the metrics, we see that metrics piling up. All right, good to go. All right. So with that done, let's come over here. We're done with this. Let's do quit. And we're going to now move over to this person right here. So this now is the NLWeb repo. And again, we already have Docker up and running and everything is going right now. So if I come over, what do I need to do? Let's see, let me see. And actually, we want to pull the information in. So we actually do need to do something. So let's go ahead and actually do a Control C, stop this, and we need to double check. Yeah. We need to load these files back in. So you notice here we're saying Python -m tools. The tools folder has a DB load inside there, and the DB load is going to look for quadrant. It's looking to see where those trace files are, which if you recall is trace export.jsonl, and we're calling it OTL trace. Now, because I've already done this before, it should tell me that there's already one there. So I'm going to override it. And it's overwritten. And then now I'm going to run, I'm going to run the web server. And the web server is now running. So now if I come into here and go to here, this should be fresh. So if I come here, wrong thing. If I come, refresh. If I come here and start asking questions, okay, what are the latest errors from the plugins? Now this is as simple as it should come, but it's going to ask OTL trace. We can see that can you send, this is the one about the Kaiser Sose one right here. I'm going to now ask what was the last response from context plugin? All right. So it's giving us the context plugin, letting us know about the 200 code. It is 5 people in the contacts. Okay, and a couple others. We won't go through all of that, but let's say were there any 400 errors? Okay. All right, so there's a 400 status code here. We can see about the Graph API. Now we can dig into some of this stuff, but we'll leave that there for another time. We won't do this one because it's just the same thing as if we did this one here. So I'm going to come down here and do all. I'm going to change this to summarize because we did list before, and we're going to change this to the quadrant local. This is the streaming chat. I'm going to ask some of the same questions that I did here, so we can get the same thing. Hopefully, Control C, come over here, Control V, and see the difference if we do a summarize. So there's a summary right here. In this one here, the exact same plugin just gave us one answer. In this one here, it's giving us a couple different ones. It says latest plugin, drive item, go to success without any errors. Those latest errors, and it's showing us a little bit more detail right here. One thing to show as well too is if you click on this here, it'll actually show you the schema object. Now you look at this, you notice it says type, name, start date, end date, location, description, identifier, text URL, and name. If we come over to here and go to telemetry and go to here and come down, you'll notice that it is the exact same thing. So this is basically my schema object that I'm creating. Remember, I talked about the fact that we can have our trace logs be in standard output. So the same thing that we had in Aspire, we basically are now creating a class helper to define that object. And then we are going to use that in order to come over to here now. If we go on program.cs and we wire up basically the, this is the one for App Insights, but we have the trace export.json. And then we are now saying that we want to have different tracing for the login, for the unified tracing, and for the metrics as well. So basically for the structured log for the traces and for the metrics. And we basically are doing our different, we're wiring it up differently for the exporter in order to be able to basically see all of that. And then down here, we start to create spans, to put these things into buckets so that we can actually see them. This was a lot of trial and error, and I'm pretty sure I'm not an expert as yet, and probably can make this a lot better. But with a lot of help from LLMs as well. This is not just all in my head. Figured out a couple different patterns for this to work. That's the reason why you're seeing some of these logs here. So if we came over to here now and go to the last bit, what I like is the fact that MCP is automatically there. So if I come here and go and ask one of these other questions as well, let's say, were there any 400 errors? Let's use this one here. And then we come over to the MCP and we move this and we do a Control V, and I come and I say send request. What? Okay, well that's new. 400 errors. It is gonna work, isn't it? Look at this stuff. So you both saw this wasn't working before, but now it is working. So as I said, MCP is all wired up. It is turnkey. It does work. Again, you can see here, you get the entire schema object as well. In fact, I've found that the MCP responses are usually better. So if I can say, how many calls were made to contacts. I found that MCP results are usually a lot better than even the results that come back from the streaming chat. I haven't gone through all of the rankings as yet, but it just looks a lot better, and I would assume that the LLM getting this back would be able to reason over the responses and give you that. You can see that there's scores that are built into it, so it'll figure stuff out. And of course, you also have the raw JSON that's here as well. So this is just an insert because the other video is already done, and I started to figure. I didn't want to just not show something, so I came back and did it in this. When I mentioned before that there are configuration files, if I go under config, you'll notice that there's a bunch of configuration files inside here. Let's make it a little bit bigger, Control plus. If we click on here, we have config for the embedding. So you can choose also your embedding model. I'm using OpenAI. This defaults to Azure OpenAI. So if you have Azure OpenAI, you would basically create your .env file, which is that guy there, and basically populate it with these values. And then once you identify it up here, it'll pull from it. But you can use Anthropic, Gemini, and even Snowflake. Under the LLM, same stuff. It defaults to Azure OpenAI. But I'm using OpenAI inside here, and it is using GPT 4.1. You can also choose your own model. If you have your own finely tuned model as well, you can come inside here and make that choice as well. And you can also have different model be called for different things, basically on how it's optimized and what it'll be used for. Under NLWeb, this is where the JSON file is located. On the retrieval, here is where you tell it what vector store. In my case, I'm using the local quadrant. And I think that is probably all I want to talk about here for today, but I encourage you to go ahead and give this a try. This is really powerful. Again, it is being talked about in the context of just reading over one's website, but any structured data will work, and you can definitely determine how that comes out. Just JSONL it as I did. Let's go back to that. If you just basically come over to here, if you just put this here and pull the information in, create an object, create your class, and all I'm doing is just bringing those activity over into here. All of that log, the same log that went to Azure Monitor and App Insight, and the same thing that goes to the Aspire. All I'm doing is just putting that inside of my telemetry, my schema object for my telemetry, and then putting that inside a JSONL format, which is what you see inside here. And that goes over, this is what you're pulling inside your vector database inside NLWeb, and NLWeb reasons over this, and you can start to use cosine similarities and nearest neighbor with your prompts to get stuff going. And as you can see as well, it basically pulls in the entire object. So you have an assurance here that it is not hallucinating. It is pulling this back, and it is giving you the answers from that itself. Control V. Okay. It's bumming me out that we can't see the MCP stuff, but we'll do another one for that. If I do this and do generate now with the exact same the same question, the answer is just going to be a little bit different versus the list one. So this is generate. Yes, there's you can see it's a little bit more creative in terms of what it talks about. If I do list, it is just going to give me back the raw list from what is inside the JSONL file. That's why it comes back like that. So there you go. Still playing with it. Lots to learn. But again, it comes from the Aspire, and then over there as well. So thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed this, and let me know you're learning this as well. One of the things that I'd love to get back from you, as an aside, is if you believe that this is beneficial, if you think that this, for the developer, that they need something like this, let me know what you would like to see in terms of the login, and let me demo that and POC that and see if that's something that you like as well. Thank you.